It's Friday, everyone. What do we do on Fridays here at the Hint Hive? That's right, we smash the patriarchy. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Hint Hive, Amplifying Women's Voices. I'm your host, Kelly Hint, your queen bee of the hive, psychotherapist, feminist life coach, and your weekly reminder that women were never meant to shrink themselves just to make the world more comfortable. Today, we are asking a question that honestly made me stop in my tracks when I first heard it. Are we raising girls to be strong, or are we just raising them to survive inequality? Think about that for a second. When people compliment little girls, they often say things like, "You're so mature, you're so helpful, you're so patient, you're so responsible, you're so resilient." And don't get me wrong, these are wonderful qualities. But resilience can become a trap when it's expected instead of admired. Because resilience is what people develop after hardship. So here's today's uncomfortable question. Why are we spending so much time teaching girls how to endure unfairness instead of teaching society to stop creating it? That's exactly what we're diving into today. We're talking about the messages girls receive from childhood, the psychology behind those messages, the invisible emotional labor that women perform every single day, and how we can start raising girls and boys in ways that actually challenge inequality instead of adapting to it. So, grab your coffee, your tea, that wonderful emotional support water bottle that many of us now have today, whatever fuels your inner revolutionary, and let's get into it. So, what does strong girl even mean? I absolutely love seeing girls encouraged to be confident. I love seeing girls in sports, girls in STEM, girls leading classrooms, girls speaking up, girls climbing mountains, girls becoming CEOs. But somewhere along the way, raising strong girls has become tangled up with something else entirely. Instead of saying, "Let's eliminate sexism," we've started saying, "Let's make girls strong enough to handle sexism." Do you hear the difference there? One changes the system, the other adapts the individual. Psychologically, this matters. When children repeatedly receive messages that they must constantly adjust to unfair environments, they often develop what's called internalized responsibility. They begin believing, if something is unfair, it must be my job to handle it better. That mindset follows women into adulthood. Women become experts at tolerating disrespect, tolerating unequal workloads, tolerating emotional labor, tolerating harassment, tolerating burnout. And then society applauds them for being resilient. And here's something fascinating from developmental psychology. Girls learn more from what we normalize than what we teach. Children don't simply learn through instruction. They learn through observation. Psychologist Albert Bandura's social learning theory demonstrated that children model behaviors they observe in the adults around them. They notice who gets interrupted, who apologizes most often, who performs invisible household labor, and who holds decision-making power. If a girl constantly watches women cleaning up after everyone, apologizing unnecessarily, putting everyone else's needs first, avoiding conflict, accepting unequal treatment, those become normal. Not because someone sat her down and taught her those lessons, because the culture did. That's why representation matters. That's why modeling matters. That, my friends, is why feminism matters. Let's talk about the infamous good girl and the conditioning that she goes through. Many girls grow up hearing messages like be nice, don't argue, smile, my favorite, share, don't be bossy, don't make people uncomfortable, don't brag, don't be too loud, don't hurt people's feelings. Now compare that with messages that boys often receive. Take risks, lead, win, stand your ground, be confident, speak up. Again, not every family teaches this, but decades of psychological and sociological research consistently show gendered expectations still influence how children are socialized. Girls are generally rewarded for cooperation and compliance. Boys are often rewarded for independence and assertiveness. Then we act shocked when women hesitate to negotiate salaries, or feel guilty saying no, or apologize before speaking. That isn't biology. That is conditioning. Now let me be crystal clear. Resilience is valuable, but it should not be required. Resilience is an incredible quality. As a therapist, I have watched people survive unimaginable circumstances. Resilience saves lives. But resilience shouldn't become society's excuse for refusing to change. Imagine if every time a bridge collapsed, we simply trained people to swim better. That would sound ridiculous. We'd simply fix the bridge. Yet that's often how we approach sexism. Teach women confidence. Teach women negotiation. Teach women self-defense. Teach women boundaries. Teach women leadership. All wonderful. All important. But where's the equal investment in teaching men emotional intelligence, respect, consent, shared caregiving, healthy masculinity, accountability? Real equality requires everyone to participate. The mental load actually starts earlier than we think. Research consistently shows that women perform a disproportionate share of the invisible mental load in households. I've talked about this before. This includes, for those who have not listened to prior episodes, it includes remembering birthdays, scheduling appointments, tracking school forms, managing emotional dynamics, planning meals, anticipating needs, and coordinating countless details that often go unnoticed. Girls often begin practicing this invisible management long before adulthood. Older sisters babysit. Girls notice when people are upset. Girls mediate sibling arguments. Girls remember everyone's birthdays. Girls become the emotional glue. None of those tasks are inherently bad. The problem is when girls begin believing my value comes from making life easier for everyone else. That is not empowerment. That's emotional overfunctioning. As a psychotherapist, I see this all the time. Women who say, I don't know who I am anymore. I take care of everyone. I feel guilty resting. I can't ask for help. I don't want to disappoint anyone. Those beliefs didn't appear overnight. Many started in childhood. Strength became synonymous with self-sacrifice. But here's the truth. You can be compassionate without becoming everyone's emotional support animal. You can be generous without abandoning yourself. You can be resilient without accepting injustice. That is a huge distinction. Because when strength becomes self-sacrifice, nobody wins. And there's another psychological concept worth discussing here: learned accommodation. Because there's a cost of constant adaptation. Over time, people stop expecting fairness because they've become accustomed to adapting. Women often laugh off sexist jokes, downplay harassment, accept unequal workloads, take notes in meetings by default, one of my personal pet peeves, probably because I always hated taking notes. I was not good at it. I was expected to be good at it just because I was a woman. They often volunteer for office housekeeping tasks. I've seen that a lot in various workplaces. And often they mentor everyone while receiving little recognition. Not because they enjoy it, but because they've learned that adapting feels safer than challenging the status quo. Every small accommodation teaches the next generation what is considered normal. So what should we be teaching instead? If we're serious about equality, we need to expand the lessons we teach girls and boys. Instead of only telling girls to be confident, we should also teach them your feelings matter. Anger can be useful when it points to injustice. You don't need to earn respect by overperforming. Boundaries are healthy, not rude. Your worth is not measured by how much you self-sacrifice. Leadership does not require perfection. You don't have to make yourself smaller to be accepted. And let's teach our boys that caring for others is strength, that emotional expression is courage, that housework is a life skill, not women's work. Consent is non-negotiable. Equality benefits everyone. And respect is not optional. That, my friends, is how the system begins to change. So, let's talk about some steps in raising the next generation differently. Whether you're raising children, mentoring teens, teaching, coaching, or simply influencing younger people in your life, there are some practical ways to help shift the culture. First, praise character beyond compliance. Instead of saying, "You're such a good girl," try praising qualities like creativity, curiosity, persistence, courage, honesty, or critical thinking. Help girls see that their value is not tied solely to being agreeable. And then next, my favorite one, normalize healthy boundaries. When girls say no respectfully, don't immediately label them as difficult. Reinforce that boundaries protect relationships and self-respect. Next, share emotional labor. If you have children, avoid assigning caregiving and household responsibilities based on gender. Let everyone learn to cook, clean, organize, and care for others. Next, encourage healthy anger. Girls don't need to fear every uncomfortable emotion. Anger can signal that a boundary has been crossed or that something is unjust. Teach them to channel it constructively rather than to suppress it. Next, question gender stereotypes together. When you hear comments like boys will be boys or girls are naturally more nurturing, pause and ask, is that really true, or is that something we've learned to expect? Critical thinking is a powerful antidote to inequality. Next, model equality at home and work. Children notice who apologizes, who makes decisions, who carries the mental load, and who gets interrupted. Living your values is one of the strongest lessons that you can teach. And finally, my favorite, celebrate rest, not just achievement. And I say this as my favorite because it is something that I am actually still working on. Believe it or not, this empowered queen still struggles to celebrate rest. I still struggle a bit with feeling kind of guilty if I sit on my butt and take a load off. So we can do this with the younger generations by praising effort and growth, but also celebrate taking breaks, asking for help, and caring for mental health. Strength includes knowing when to recharge. And now let's talk about the bigger picture. Imagine an entire generation of girls who know that they do not have to apologize for existing. Imagine an entire generation of boys who grow up believing that caregiving and empathy are signs of strength and masculinity. Imagine workplaces where women aren't expected to prove themselves twice as much. Imagine relationships built on partnership instead of invisible labor. Imagine daughters who inherit equality, not just coping skills. That's the goal. Not tougher girls. A fairer world. All right, ladies. Time for our badass affirmation of the week. This week's affirmation is, I was not born to quietly survive inequality. I was born to challenge it, change it, and thrive beyond it. My voice, my boundaries, and my power help create a more equal world. I absolutely love this one because it reminds us that resilience is not the finish line. It's the launching pad. The goal isn't simply to become so tough that injustice can't hurt us. The goal is to use our strength, our wisdom, and our collective voices to build a world where future generations don't have to be quite so resilient in the first place. Every time you set a boundary, question an unfair expectation, advocate for yourself or another woman, or model equality for a child, you are helping to rewrite the story. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this. Women have always been strong. History proves that. We've survived discrimination, violence, exclusion, impossible expectations, and generations of being underestimated. We don't need more evidence that women are resilient. What we need is a society that stops requiring women to constantly prove it. So let's continue raising girls who are brave enough to question unfairness, not just endure it. Let's raise boys who understand that equality is their responsibility too. Let's celebrate resilience without glorifying suffering. And let's remember that every conversation we have, every stereotype we challenge, every boundary that we model, and every young person we influence creates ripples that extend far beyond our own lives. It literally shapes our future and their future. The strongest legacy we can leave isn't daughters who can survive inequality. It's daughters and sons who refuse to accept it as normal. All right, my friends, if today's episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with someone who is raising children, teaching, mentoring, coaching, or simply trying to make the world a little more equitable. These conversations matter, and they grow stronger every time we have them. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the Hint Hive, Amplifying Women's Voices. Leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, and share the show on social media. Your support helps more women discover this community and keeps these important conversations buzzing. And I'd love to hear from you. What messages about being strong did you receive growing up, and what would you teach the next generation instead? Join the conversation in the comments or connect with our Hint Hive community over on Facebook and answer that question, and let's get a discussion going. Until next time, remember this, my fellow queens. You were never meant to become exceptional at carrying inequality. You were meant to help build a world where no one has to. All right, my friends, keep buzzing, keep questioning, keep taking up space, and as always, keep amplifying women's voices. This podcast is powered by Kelly Hint Empowerment Coaching, as well as Kelly M. Hint LMHC and The Cranky Counselor. To find out more about coaching services, head over to CoachKellyHint.com. If you'd like to know more about the psychotherapy services I offer to individuals within the state of New York, you can check out KellyMHint.com. And if you'd like to learn more about aromatherapy, you can check out TheCrankyCounselor.com.